What's the darkest but nobody talks about it reality of the modern world? A lot of the stuff we buy is made by either slaves, children, or slave children. Nearly all the minerals that make your smartphone work come from incredibly poor, war-torn countries and most definitely slaves, and expose people to high levels of toxins that cause cancer and other diseases, but they don't have access to quality healthcare, so their death is that much more painful. It's not nearly all the minerals in a phone. It's cobalt from the DRC for the battery. Making things sound worse than they are undermines actually good communication about the specific issue that has an actual location and can be addressed. And lithium and nickel. You'll want to Google lithium brine mining and be shocked by what you find. Everyone is obsessed with celebrity pedophile rings, but almost all sexual abuse is perpetrated by a family member or neighbor. All the talk of for the kids does almost nothing to actually alleviate the problem. Only education and mental health care can stop the cycle. Edit. I'm thankful for all the thoughtful responses, as this is an issue that is personal for me. It's uplifting to see that so many people aren't so distracted by the noise and recognize the signal. Worse, the fear-mongering of groomers outside of families have created a culture where adults are scared to even talk to kids and vice versa, meaning abuse victims have no adults they can turn to. As a dad to a 2-yo and 6-yo girl, it's a uniquely awful feeling having another parent give you that look like, "Stay TF away from my kid." That's definitely a privilege that I have as a woman. I can take my niece to the park and sit alone on a bench watching her play with the other kids, and no one bats an eye. I don't think I could do that as a man. While there are creeps out there, the majority of men that I know are loving fathers who would never hurt any child. We need to normalize the idea that men are capable parents who can take equal responsibility in raising their children and have every right to be present as parents in the same spaces as mothers. Hi, I'm a psychologist who works with sex offenders, mostly risk assessment. The best rehabilitative programs we have for moderate/high-risk sex offenders in jails show modest reductions for general reoffending, and very small or negligible reductions in risk of sexual reoffending. In other words, at least for higher-risk offenders, mental health treatment doesn't solve the problem. At least not much, and not yet. I swear though, we are fucking trying. I hope I can give you some insight here, from a girl who was abused as a child. The women in the lives of the offenders most likely allow it. When I told my mother I was being abused, she looked briefly shocked and then said I was too, and nothing changed. She did nothing to protect me. I was in college for criminal justice, and my teacher was a former cop and parole officer. He told us once he was doing a check-in on a sex offender and found little boys' underoos in the man's bedroom. The offender said he bought them at Walmart, and having them around helped him curb his urges. They did an extensive investigation and found out that, thankfully, they were purchased. He told us that it's his belief that pedophiles simply can't be cured, and it's safer for everyone if they're monitored for life upon release from jail. Hey man, did you already subscribe on me? You don't? Subscribe and press like faster. There are orphanages full of unadoptable kids in several countries around the world. Why are they unadoptable? Because they were abandoned by or rescued from child sex trafficking, deeply scarred emotionally and infected with STDs, often more than one. Not many people look to adopt at all. Fewer still are willing to take on kids with disabilities. Fucked up and dying kids have virtually no chance at all. Other part, international adoption can run $50 $100K. People do want to adopt those kids. You need to have a lot of money to do so. Where does all that money go? I know it's not as simple as buy them a plane ticket and pick them up, but $100K is crazy. My friend is on the list for adopting a kid, but majority of the cost is paying for the workers that facilitate the adoption. It takes like 5 years for the process and thus so much wages and overhead. Why it takes 5 years is beyond me. Endless consumerism is unsustainable. Most jobs are bullshit jobs, and people are addicted to buying useless plastic crap they don't need, and it's killing the planet. But put the brakes on all that, and everything also goes to shit. But the super rich will enjoy lavish lifestyles no matter what. I get this very specific, depressing feeling every time I enter a Hobby Lobby. Like Doom, kinda. Like Jesus Christ, what kind of void are these joyless people in here, filling with all the random shit they are buying? What is wrong with us? The inherited desire to create, except all we do is work and drive home, and drive to work and drive home. When foster kids turn 18, they are tossed to the streets. This happened to my birth mom, and is the reason she had to put me up for adoption. She got pregnant with me at 17, aged out, and got kicked out of her foster home before she gave birth. She had me and had nowhere to go, so we slept under the bleachers at the local high school. It was March, and I caught pneumonia. When she took me back to the hospital, they told her that if she didn't put me up for adoption, they would call CPS and I would likely be placed in foster care. Not wanting me to get stuck in the system like she did, she had been in foster care since she was 9, she put me up for adoption. I was adopted at 24 days old. I'm grateful for the financial opportunities I wouldn't have otherwise had if I hadn't been adopted, but the course of my entire life was changed by those people's decision to make a pregnant 17-year-old girl homeless. I used to live in Chicago. I happened to know 2 different social workers. They worked for the city or the state. There was a program of supportive housing for the kids who had grown up in the system. These were often kids whose mother was dead, and father was serving a life sentence, that kind of thing. They had bounced around their whole lives, foster care, group homes, etc. No real family left. When they were 18, they could go into this supportive housing and most likely get a job somewhere local. Do you want fries with that? But still a job. They also got to talk to a social worker once a week. They could stay until they were 21. What happened? Illinois elected a Republican governor named Rauner. He decided to cut that program, whether just out of spite, or to pay for tax cuts for the wealthy, who knows? Anyhow, both of the social workers were absolutely furious about this. They saw firsthand how 18-year-old olds who had grown up in the system had benefited from this program. The fact that it was ending was really kind of unbelievable to them, and they said that these kids would wind up on the streets. Of course, there was no tracking program to see what actually happened to those kids. According to Pentagon statistics, an average of 10,000 men are sexually assaulted by other men in the US military each year. The vast majority are young, low-ranking men. Many claim assault on several occasions and/or by multiple male offenders. 1 in 3 men describe the assault as a form of hazing, bullying, or intimidation. As of 2019, the VA officially recognized 61,000 male veterans as being traumatized sexually during their time of service. Although the number of male sexual assault claims filed each year continues to climb, it's estimated that 4 out of 5 never get reported. Commercials on paid subscriptions. One that pisses me off is that I pay for Hulu to be commercial-free, but since they designed it around commercials, the episodes still have little black gaps breaks where the commercials would go. So even though I'm paying, things like Shogun and the Bear have briefly cuts to black. I did not even know that the episode of The Bear in Season 1 was an impressive 18-minute one-take, because it had multiple cuts forced into it. Music in Shogun or other shows that is supposed to be continuous and bridge one scene to the other just clips out and then back. I'm paying for no commercials. I shouldn't have anything that's part of the commercial version. But instead, I am paying for no commercials but still broken, not as intended episodes of shows. Makes me want to just go back to buying Blu-rays. That the American middle class is struggling, but by global standards, they live lives of unimaginable luxury and leisure. That the global median income is $3,900 a year, and that half the world's population controls only 2% of the world's wealth. This is what I've been thinking a lot. How lucky we are to live at this moment. Here in Finland, pretty much every worker can afford to go every day to a lunch buffet serving amount and quality food that for vast majority of people was not available even at Christmas dinner. We have access to better quality food than kings and counts did 300 years ago, not to mention 3,000 or 30,000 years ago. All civilizations are destined to eventually fail because humanity can't figure out a perfect form of government. It doesn't even need to be perfect, it just needs to be good enough. We can't even figure that out. It's greed. That ruins them all. We currently have enough food to feed everyone, yet 9 million people die from starvation annually. It's a distribution issue, not a quantitative one. The works of the roots of the vines, of the trees, must be destroyed to keep up the price, and this is the saddest, bitterest thing of all. Carloads of oranges dumped on the ground. The people came for miles to take the fruit, but this could not be. How would they buy oranges at 20 cents a dozen if they could drive out and pick them up? And men with hoses squirt kerosene on the oranges, and they are angry at the crime. Angry at the people who have come to take the fruit. 1 million people hungry, needing the fruit and kerosene sprayed over the Golden Mountains. And the smell of rot fills the country. Burn coffee for fuel in the ships. Burn corn to keep warm. It makes a hot fire. Dump potatoes in the rivers and place guards along the banks to keep the hungry people from fishing them out. Slaughter the pigs and bury them, and let the putrescence drip down into the earth. There is a crime here that goes beyond denunciation. There is a sorrow here that weeping cannot symbolize. There is a failure here that topples all our success. The fertile earth, the straight tree rows, the sturdy trunks, and the ripe fruit. And children dying of pellagra must die because a profit cannot be taken from an orange. And coroners must fill in the certificate, died of malnutrition because the food must rot, must be forced to rot. The people come with nets to fish for potatoes in the river, and the guards hold them back. They come in rattling cars to get the dumped oranges, but the kerosene is sprayed. And they stand still and watch the potatoes float by, listen to the screaming pigs being killed in a ditch and covered with quicklime, watch the mountains of oranges slop down to a putrefying ooze. And in the eyes of the people there is the failure, and in the eyes of the hungry there is a growing wrath. In the souls of the people the grapes of wrath are filling and growing heavy for the vintage. John Steinbeck, The Grapes of Wrath. Thanks for watching this video. Subscribe, press like, and comment.